See you, Maggie. All right, Johann Friedrich Nietzsche was born in 1844 and died in 1900. He had spent the last 10 years of his life in an insane asylum. He was suffering from the terminal phases of syphilis, which he had contracted during the Crimean War. All right, so he basically was, I mean, he was completely insane because the syphilis had destroyed his brain. Yeah, so he was, yeah, so for the last 10 years of his life, he was totally out.
Delirious all the time.
Yeah, I mean, completely delirious. He was in constant pain throughout his entire life. He had trouble with his vision. It was painful for him to write, to do all of these things, and yet he is, without a doubt, probably the most original thinker we've had since Socrates. There are four grounding concepts that we'll want to explore that are the primary concepts that he brings. Will to power and the Ubermensch, and in German they're Wille zur Macht and Ubermensch. Okay, eternal recurrence of the same and amor fati, which means love of one's fate in Latin. European Western nihilism, his famous phrase, God is dead. And the transvaluation of all values, or the revaluation of all values. Okay, remember, he's building upon Hegel and Spinoza and Descartes and all these other people. The Will to Power is the title of an unpublished work consisting of notes, scribbles, aphorisms, ideas for other books, collected into a volume and published posthumously in 1901, with a revised and updated version published in 1906. All right, so it was not something he published during his lifetime, but it became the springboard, his sort of thinking cap that led to the other works that he did publish. It refers, the term, will to power, refers to the fundamental ontological structure of the universe, the will to overcome, to change, to evolve, to become. Okay? The will to power. Now we want to compare Hegel's concept of freedom as the ontological structure of spirit. Now, Nietzsche is taking it one step further and saying it's not just freedom, it's the will to power. I don't just want to be free, I want to be dominated. I want to dominate everything. Okay? And he's saying that's not just the ontological structure of spirit, he's saying that's the ontological structure of everything. Okay? Which is very important. Will to power is the primary characteristic of the Ubermensch. Okay? Will to power is opposed to the state. That is, the Ubermensch is opposed to the state. Let me read to you what he said about the state. Okay, this is from Zoroaster. Where is it? It's in my portable Nietzsche in here. This contains the complete. This is probably the best version, translated by Walter Kaufmann, and it has the complete version of the Zoroaster. And mine is, I read it so many times, it's literally falling apart. So I'll read from here at this point. And this is from a chapter in part 1 called On the New Idol. And he calls it the coldest of all cold monsters. Somewhere there are still peoples and herds, but not where we live, my brothers. Here there are states. State? What is that? Well then, open your ears to me, for now I shall speak to you about the death of peoples. State is the name of the coldest of all cold monsters. Coldly it tells lies, too. And this lie crawls out of its mouth, quote, I, the state, and the people. This is the first lie that it tells. This is a lie. It was creators who created peoples and hung a faith and a love over them. Thus they served life. It is annihilators who set traps for the many and call them state. That is called traps for the many state. They hang a sword and 100 appetites over them. So he's making a distinction between the created people, the Ubermensch, and the annihilators. Again, we get that term nihilism, annihilate. Okay? Who are the people who contrive the state. And he calls the state the trap. This sign I give you, every people speaks its language of good and evil, which the neighbor does not understand. It has invented its own language of customs and rights. But the state tells lies in all the languages of good and evil. And whatever it says, it lies. And whatever it has stolen. Okay, so a challenge to the modern statecraft. And remember when he's living right at the apex of Kaiser Wilhelm and his empire building in ancient Prussia, which will lead to the First World War, okay, and the dissolution of Prussia and the reconstitution as Germany, Austria, Hungary. Okay, so he's living through all of that. And remember, he was a medic during the Crimean War, during the 1840s. So he saw up close and personal the result of the statecraft. The concept itself, the will to power, is introduced in Thus Spake Zarathustra. In part 1, on the 1001 Goals. And what he does here is, he saw many lands and many peoples. Thus he discovered the good and evil of many peoples. And Zarathustra found no greater power on earth than good and evil. All right, and he talks about the distinction again between the annihilators and the creators. So he's making that distinction as we move forward. The people who annihilate and the people who create. And the overman is the one that creates. The annihilators are the ones who do everything. And then in part 2 on self-overcoming and on redemption, he continues to talk about these distinctions. And he keeps reminding us that the overman is the will to power, and the will to power is what is the source of the creation. Will to power is creation. Look at the heavens. Look at nature. Life. All of those things are created. That's the will to power. It is not the will to destroy, it is the will to create. Now the overman. In German it's the Ubermensch. Literally, the word over plus man. Overman. Opposed to the last man. Now we saw the first man. The first man is the man of, the uncivilized man who just wants, will attack you for any reason at all. Okay? The last man, however, and keep in mind what Hegel's concept of the end of history was. The end of history was this sort of bland world where everybody is well taken care of but don't have any more challenges. Okay? And so the last man is the man who's tired of life. He takes no risks and seeks only comfort and security. So the overman is opposed to the last man. He wants challenges. He wants something to challenge him in his will to power. It's opposed to the master-slave relation with his creation of ressentiment, which was the French term that he introduced into the German text. Resentment, hostility, is the result of the master-slave relation that Hegel had talked about. All right, now he says this resentment, this hostility occurs in both masters and slaves. The masters resent the slaves because they're inferior. The slaves resent the masters because they are autocratic and violent. All right, so this resentment, this hostility between the two classes is what sort of simmers underneath the surface of every human relationship. Okay? This appears in Zarathustra's prologue. Now, throughout the text, there's this constant play with the German words über and unter, over and under. All right, he constantly talks about going under, and he constantly talks about going over. So there's always these images of going over. For example, he talks about, tightrope walk, which is obviously over. And this is interesting because Zarathustra comes upon this scene where there's a crowd, and across a river is a tightrope and a tightrope walker. And what he says is, here, this is the example. The overman is up there trying to walk across without falling, obviously, so this is a very difficult challenge. Below them is the herd, the crowd. And the crowd is hoping what? Exactly, hoping to see the overman fall. Because that would be it. Why do we watch NASCAR? We don't really care who wins. We want to see death, destruction, flame outs. That's what we want to see. Okay? Why do we watch boxing? Because we want to see somebody get hurt. And he said, this is the annihilation. This is the herd mentality.
How about if you don't like to watch all those? What that would you?
The overman. We're striving for the overman. Okay? Away from the petty objectives of
security and all that, huh?
Yeah, no, that's the last man. Yeah, the overman wants challenges. The overman wants something, someplace to create, someplace to move ahead, to overcome. Okay? The last man wants security and comfort and everything quiet and peaceful. The first man, the first man, well, but that is a form of slavery.
Right,
according to Nietzsche.
There's no growth.
Exactly. Well, there's no growth. There's no nothing like that. So yeah. Okay. So if we take a look at Thus Spake Zarathustra, as if it were a Gnostic parable, which it is. It's a Gnostic parable. He's updating the old Gnostic parable. Zarathustra is the old name for Zoroaster. Okay, the ancient Persian mystic who fed forward into Plato and the Gnostics, because one of the concepts of the Zoroastrians was there are these two opposing forces, the force of goodness and the force of evil. And they clash, and the clash is what creates this place in which we live. Okay, so he's talking about Zarathustra, Zoroaster, the main character in the parable here. This is a Gnostic parable then updated to the modern times in which Nietzsche was living. It intended to point out that there is an immanentizing of the eschaton of the Gnostics. Remember that we talked about the end result, the ideal end result of the Gnostics, at least the Mandaean Gnostics, was that all of us would wake up, okay, become overmen, and then, travel to the world of light where we came from originally, and that would initiate the collapse of this horrible place. That's the eschaton. That is the end times. That is the end result of the Gnostic doctrine, of the Mandaean Gnostic doctrine. Okay? So it comes from Greek eschaton, which means end times. Eschatology, if you recall, is the branch of metaphysics concerned with the ultimate destiny of mankind and the final events of history. So immanentizing the eschaton is to cause the end of history in the physical world. We'll return to that idea. Okay, we'll definitely return to that idea a little bit later. Now, this idea, the phrase immanentizing the eschaton, actually comes from Eric Vogelin in his book Science, Politics, and Gnosticism, 2 essays, where he actually outlines this concept. He's saying that this is what is driving the modern era, is this desire to immanentize the eschaton by the leadership, by the rulers. They want to immanentize the eschaton, and so they're going to take us over the cliff and destroy this place in order to accomplish that end. That's what he's talking about there. I actually encountered it first in the Illuminatus trilogy by Robert Shea and Robert Anton Wilson. Has anybody read that? It was published in the early 70s. They were two of Playboy's editors, and they got together and wrote this. It was a fairly large book, and it was cut apart into 3 books by Dell Publishing when they published it. And it's called the Illuminatus trilogy, or just Illuminatus. And it was just filled with this sort of what Wilson called guerrilla ontology, where you never know what's real and what's fiction and what's sort of real and not fiction in the novel itself. So you don't know. So you have to sort of go back and check all of his facts. Is what he's saying really true? Did it really happen? Is the word he's using really used in the right way, and so on and so forth? So it's a challenge to sort of read. And he talks about immanentizing the eschaton, and he got it from Vogel. Illuminatus? Yeah, or the Illuminatus trilogy, yeah, by Robert Shea and Robert Anton Wilson. Yeah, and it's still out there. It's a fun read. It's a good read. Very interesting read. Concerned with Wilson, Shea died pretty early and didn't write much else except that. He did write another novel, a 2-part novel called, I can't remember what it was called. I'll think in just a second. Anyway, Wilson went on to write a lot of stuff. And mostly, conspiracy kinds of things like that, analyzing conspiracy theories, seeing what was true, seeing what was not true. And good reading, good lecture, very fun. Very, very few. Good novelist, too. Wrote a lot of novels. All right. Next is eternal recurrence, amor fati, nihilism, and the transvaluation of all values. Okay? Eternal recurrence of the same. If there's infinite time and infinite worlds, leading to infinite experiences, then this experience right now, this one right now that we're having, has been repeated an infinite number of times and will be repeated an infinite number of additional times. This right now.
The story is not proven though.
Oh yeah, absolutely, it can be proven. Here, take a look. Take a look at the Gerhard Cantor's set theory. Okay? Set theory demonstrates it in a mathematical way. Nietzsche actually offers proofs of it. But the question isn't whether it's true. Let me read from the Gay Science, which is where he first introduces it. Okay, this is from book 4, entry 341. The greatest weight. Okay? What if someday or night a demon were to steal after you into your loneliest loneliness and say to you, quote, this life as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once more, and innumerable times more. And there will be nothing new in it, but every pain and every joy and every thought and sigh, and everything unutterably small or great in your life will have to return to you, all in the same succession and sequence. Even this spider and this moonlight between the trees, and even this moment and I myself. The eternal hourglass of existence is turned upside down again and again, and you with it, speck of dust. Okay, that's the demon talking. Now, this is Nietzsche again. Would you not throw yourself down and gnash your teeth and pierce the demon who spoke thus? Or have you once experienced a tremendous moment when you would have answered him, quote, you are a god, and never have I heard anything more divine. If this thought gained possession of you, it will change you as you are, or perhaps crush you. The question in each and everything, do you desire this once more and innumerable times more, would lie upon your actions as the greatest weight. Okay? If what you are choosing to do right now, this minute, had to be relived again and again and again and again, would you choose to do it? So this is the core of his ethics. This is the ethics for the Ubermensch. Or how well disposed would you have to become to yourself and to life to crave nothing more fervently than this ultimate eternal confirmation and seal? So this is the doctrine of eternal return, or the eternal recurrence of the same. This is the ethics. This is the way that Nietzsche talks about it. This is the Gay Science. This is where it first appears.
Oh, the Gay Science.
Okay? All right, the happy science. And so he's talking about that there. Now the next section in here, 342, begins with the Latin phrase incipit tragedia. The tragedy begins. And then he talks about Zarathustra. Okay? The tragedy begins with the recognition that eternal recurrence of the same is in fact a cosmic law. Okay? And so this is what he's talking about. This forms the core of it.
So there's no progress, you come back and you don't...
Well, there may be progress, yeah. What this means is, remember, there's an infinite number of infinities that we're dealing with here.
There's no end to it.
Yeah, this is transfinite. I mean, it doesn't matter. If we were to inject something new in this, it would then recur an infinite number of times into the future occurrences. Okay, this is where Cantor's, when he started constructing set theory in the early 1930s, these were some of the implications and some of the paradoxes that were created by the theory. Okay, that there would be transfinite sets, that there would be an infinite number of infinite sets. Okay, and so this is a mathematical kind of relationship that Nietzsche was looking about just logically. Okay, and remember, the core of Nietzsche's idea is that we must love our faith, regardless of what it is, because we're going to have to repeat it again and again and again. So this is the core of the Ubermensch's ethical choices. Okay? So love of one's faith, amor fati, means love of one's faith in the situation of eternal recurrence of the same. Remember what the demon, remember how he phrased it. How would you respond if this demon came to you one night and told you this was the way the world really is? I mean, how would you respond to that? You know, wailing and gnashing your teeth and throwing yourself across the balcony, all right, or joy, because, you know, because you love your faith, because it's okay, because you've made the right choices, or even if you've made the wrong choices, you learn from them. Okay? So again,
If you learn from them, then you're not repeating.
no, you'll repeat that too. Everything, you have to repeat everything.
You don't repeat what you didn't learn.
No, but then you'll repeat that again and again and again and again. Okay? This is a koan meditation. This is a meditation on a potential way that the universe operates. This is a thought experiment, to use Einstein's term. If you sit down and meditate on this, it will transfigure your life, I guarantee it. It will alter the way you approach every single moment of your existence if you meditate on this idea. This is a powerful idea. Even if it's not true, it doesn't matter. Truth and falsity have no bearing on this. This is a thought experiment, and it will alter the way you perceive reality. Yeah?
Is that because you will meditate on what will be if you repeat everything?
It's because you will have an experience in your meditative practice of this actual fact, of this actual process. Okay, again, it's one of those things where you have to do the meditation before you understand it, and it will take some time to get into it enough to actually have the experience, but once you do, you'll be standing on the same ground that Nietzsche stood on. Again, these people are not talking abstract concepts. They're talking reality. They're talking, this is the way the world operates. They sit and they think and they meditate and they peer into the structure of nature in a way that most of us can never do because we don't have the time or the training. Okay, this is not fiction. This is real. And you can have this, remember the recapitulation. In order to understand Nietzsche, you've got to stand in Nietzsche's feet. You know, you've got to stand right there. You have to do what he did. You have to see what he saw. You have to practice what he practiced. And then you will see the world according to Nietzsche, the way that he saw it. And then you'll see that he was totally accurate. Okay? So it's not a question of saying it's not true and I'm not going to bother with it. Okay, that's the way of opinion. The way of truth is get into it. Find out where it leads. Exert your will to power. Do not rely on anybody else's descriptions of this world. Use this as a technique in order to get into the actual structure of the world. And you'll see it. You'll see it all laid out in an infinite series. And this refers back to Buddhism too. The Buddha had the same vision. Okay? The exact same vision. And he talks about this. Once you're in that meditative state and you use the proper koan, the proper imagery to get into the state and start looking at this eternal recurrence, you'll see it. Dependent origination is what he called it. No beginning, no end. It's in the Bible. World without end. Amen. Okay? That's what he's talking about. That is the actual structure of the world. So do not rely on the world of opinion. Sit and meditate. Follow the path. And you'll have the same experience that these people have had and understand more about the way the world operates. Okay? Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Well, no, because
Okay.
if I come back and I listen to you at another time, I hope to have better insight. And someday maybe I have enough insight that I don't have to come back because I understand it. In some... I mean, then I won't be, I won't be...
But what happens if you have to repeat?
If I
What happens if all of your insight is missing and you have to repeat it again?
Well,
What happens if you walk out that door and forget all about this, and you do not re-encounter it until 5 lifetimes in the future? That's what he's telling you to think about. Not some idealized version of, yeah, at some point in the future I will. understand everything there is, and then voila, something magical will happen. What really happens to us? We forget. What really happens to us? We fail. What really happens to us? We die. Okay? And that's the fact that we have to begin to deal with. All of those things. And what happens if we fail, and we suffer, and we die an infinite number of times, and there's not a single damn thing you can do about it? You're going to have to do it again, and again, and again, and again, just like you're doing it now. Okay? That's the point of the meditation. Yeah? Question?
Lost.
Okay.
Went overhead.
Yeah, this puts you, like I said, the meditation is powerful, probably one of the most powerful out there. And again, it's the same thing. All these people, Heraclitus, Parmenides, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Descartes, Spinoza, Hegel, all of them have had this vision. Every single one of them understand this. Yeah.
So are you saying that, is this talking about reincarnation?
Not necessarily. Yeah, you don't have to have reincarnation to have eternal recurrence of the same.
So, what happens? Like if you die?
This happens. This happens right now, this conversation.
and this-
Your movement of your hands, again and again and again and again and again. Because if there's an infinite number of realities out there, if there's an infinite number of universes in infinite time, that necessarily means that this entire lifetime will be repeated an infinite number of times.
And it has nothing to do with reincarnation?
No, absolutely not. Not necessary. Don't even have to think about reincarnation.
But-
What if it's this reincarnation an infinite number of times? That's what he's saying. This very reincarnation, over and over and
we do
over
the
and over.
same thing over
Same thing, over and
the
over.
same stage?
Exactly. Do exactly the same thing. Okay? You see what I'm saying? This is powerful meditation. If you can get into it. If you can.
I don't believe in reincarnation. I said I don't believe in.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I believe that we live here and then we go eternal and we're there forever.
Hanging out
We're
in heaven?
done. For me?
Hanging out in heaven?
We
Doing what?
don't know exactly where we'll be heaven, but with the spirit it will be in the spirit world and that's it.
That's it?
Until, I mean, it's not necessarily that it. I don't believe that we will, go back to life and then back into another stage. I don't believe. I think we go into an eternal spirit life, and that's how we maintain.
Ah.
That's
And
what I believe.
remember that spirit without matter has no consciousness.
Correct, and I was thinking very deeply when you were mentioning that, because it kind of contradicts some stuff that I think about.
Uh-huh.
But this is just my case, this is my, it's the way I think.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think that we will go, you said a minute ago that you go 5 times, come back and 5 times, fight good again and again. I don't think we have that opportunity to go 5 times, so that would fit kind of more the incarnation, but I don't believe
This
in
isn't an opportunity. This is a sentence.
It's sentence.
Absolutely. You are sentenced to do this, have the same conversation again and again and again an infinite number of
You mean
times.
sentence.
Sentence. It is a sentence.
Condemned. Yeah.
You are condemned to repeat this again and again and again.
Where we do that again and again and again?
Here.
Oh, here, yes.
No, here, right now.
Yes. But I thought after you die, when you mentioned you die.
Right, you'll die again and again and again and again.
Why?
Eternal recurrence of the same. Okay?
I don't believe it.
It's not a question of belief, it's a question of thought experiment. Put yourself into the position, see where it leads. Okay? This is what all of the ancient mysteries were trying to get around to. This whole thing. Remember that their techniques were psychodrama, meditation, and hypnosis.
Yeah.
Same thing here. These are thought experiments. You have to experience it. You have to meditate on it. You have to use this as the core, the koa, okay? The rational element of the meditative practice. Then you'll have the experience, and then you'll understand what it's
I
talking
wonder
about.
what kind of world we're gonna have. I mean, what are we gonna live with the matter is a conscious and the spirit has no conscious. So, how we live in the spiritual world
You don't.
without a spirit, I mean, without a conscience, without a matter.
Lon's gone. I'm gone. When my spirit is no longer intersecting this particular avatar,
Yeah.
Lon's gone.
Life is gone.
No, Lon is gone.
What is gone?
Me,
Oh.
gone.
mine is
Lon,
gone.
this
Okay.
this particular entity right is gone.
Yeah.
Because it is unique. It is the intersection between my
Well,
spirit,
you're a spirit.
right, and when I'm a spirit, nothing. There is no consciousness.
What?
Remember what the eight Buddhist meditative absorptions. The eighth absorption, nothingness, nullity, the void. Nothingness is what the spirit world is.
I contradict that because in my particular case, my husband and I, we were absolutely close. We were twins in the spirit. And he died, and his mother died, his body died, but his spirit, I can feel him. And it's not that I put my money to feel it, I can feel his spirit with me all the time. So you say that the spirit is done. It's
No,
gone.
I'm saying that at the eighth meditative absorption, you then are at the ultimate limits of spirit, and that is nothingness. At the lower levels, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, all of those will have some kind of relationship to matter. And
Okay.
so, some kind of consciousness is still
Memories
available.
and things like that. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's all associated
But total
with-
spirit is the eighth absorption, and it's nothing, it's the void. Okay? So yeah, if your husband's spirit is still locked into some relationship with this material world, yeah, that would be fine. He's in the first, second, or third, fourth meditative
So you've
absorption.
been to the 8, I have heard to the 7, even in the Arabic culture.
No, this is
They
not.
talk about the, the 7, 8, no, I don't, the 7.
Mhm.
Now, what you came up with the 8, what, can you give me an idea? I mean,
Because the Buddha, this is the Advaita tradition that the Buddha was following.
Oh,
The original conception of the way that the world was constructed was that there was the world of spirit, and then the spirit descended through the 7 planes, which are represented by the 7 planets of the ancient astrotheology, okay, until it finally got here. So the return journey would be to go back the way we came, travel through these 7 planets, and reach the ultimate objective, the 8th, the Advaita, where
What
we
is it
were
called?
back. Because that's octo, Greek
Okay,
word for 8, yeah, just
Okay.
8. So that's why that's what this is. If we take a look at the Gnostic, the Mandaean myth, that's what they were talking about. Okay, the world of the real world, the world of the divine from which we came. It's out there, and we have been imprisoned by the malevolent archons through 7 layers.
I believe that.
Yeah,
I
7
believe
layers
that.
of successive matter.
Mhm.
Boom. So if your husband is still in contact with you, he's still trapped here and has not been able to escape. That's what that means, which is fine, okay, from this particular perspective. But it does not contradict the fact that total spirit is the void, nothingness, and no consciousness.
You mean
of it.
there is, after you become a spirit, it doesn't matter?
No, I'm saying that to actually go back to the place from which we
Where we
came
can, yes.
is the void, and we have to work
What
at
is
it.
the void?
The void, nothingness.
Okay.
The place from
No.
which, yeah, no, absolutely nothing. There's none of this.
Oh, no, I know that's for sure.
No, but
yeah.
you're still confused because you think that your husband is in the spirit world. He's not. He's locked in one of these intermediate worlds. And he still has communication with this particular plane using the Gnostic cosmology. Okay? But the actual spirit world, because remember, consciousness can only occur with the intersection of spirit and matter. So once you eliminate matter completely by going to the 8th Agdawad, consciousness is gone.
Yeah, when I say, I feel he's a spirit, I said, I don't say that I feel his presence. It's his spirit, what I think.
Well, that's...
Not his presence.
Well, no, things that you feel have to have a presence. If there's no presence, there's no experience. This from Hume. Remember, empiricism, everything that we experience has to come to us through the presence of that, whatever it is. It reveals itself. The phenomenon reveals itself to us in a presence. And in fact, that was the ancient, if we go back to the ancient Greeks, if we take a look at Heraclitus and the others, that is their definition of being. It reveals itself. A being is that which reveals itself to us through the phenomenon. So if you're experiencing a presence, that's a phenomenon. Okay? Now again, this is we're talking Nietzsche here, trying to come up with a way, a meditation to explain what it is that he has experienced. And this is the way that he explained it. And we can recreate that experience by doing the same meditation that he did. Okay? Now, nihilism, which is the final point, God is dead. The ancient Christian God is dead. And he's been killed by technology, according to Nietzsche. The technological world that was created when Descartes decided to move the Western world towards reason has now, 4 centuries later, yielded such technological advance that God is dead. God has been killed. Okay, the Christian God is dead. All values, therefore, predicated on his existence are now null and void, leading to a devaluation of all values that were predicated upon his existence. And he uses he said, it may appear that God is still alive out there, but that is nothing more than a false appearance, like the light from a dead star. It's so far away that it still appears in the sky as if it were there, but it's been dead for 4,000 years. And that's what he's saying about God. God was killed by the technologists. And even though it still appears that he's here, he's really not. Okay? Therefore, there is a necessity for a revaluation or transvaluation of all values by the new philosopher, the Old.
Yeah, they can do all transvaluation and try to figure it out. They never get it.
Well, they're doing it. You're living through it right now, and we may not survive it. All right? So, just a summary, Western philosophy is now overtly political. Philosophy and psychology are merged into concepts like master, slave, and will to power. Progress is the nature of historical evolution. It's the result of reason over revelation. It was the exclusive property of Western philosophy and the Western, European world. Leads to the demise of all non-rational cultures, as we're seeing. Okay? Ontology of the spirit equals freedom equals will to power. All right. Any questions before we break out? Oh. This is a lot of stuff, and it's bringing all the things that we've learned beforehand. It's now bringing them all together, and it's applying them in new ways to the world in which we live. Because the world Nietzsche lived in is the same world we live in. We're just a little further along the timeline. But he was living in the same world we're living in now. And he saw that the technology that we had created because of our reason was leading to a crisis, which we are now confronting. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, thanks. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Okay, when we will talk about phenomenology and existentialism. So we'll take closer to the existentialist. We'll also take a look at some of the Hermetic orders, like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. We'll take a look at what's happened to the occult side of this equation. All right, see you then. Yeah, exactly. We'll be able to put it all together. Yeah, good, I'm glad.
La cuestión del laboratorio de INL on Wednesday. No. Okay. Yeah, I had a lunch. You go to those lunch out there at Jennifer Hills? Yeah, I'm gonna go, so I'm going to, what I was gonna say. I would have to probably leave like 30 minutes before or so. So I don't know how we're gonna do, I need to call, what's her name? Lucy. Because I don't wanna, have a game, start a game, and then get up and go and leave people there. So, yeah, but she might have a plan.
Yeah.
So I'll check, I'll just let